Greetings to all. In this video, we are going to understand a short story, An Astrologer's Day, written by R.K. Narayan. An Astrologer's Day, R.K. Narayan. Contents of this presentation: biography of R.K. Narayan, R.K. Narayan's contribution to short story, An Astrologer's Day, text of the short story, brief summary of the short story. This is the image of R.K. Narayan. Biography of R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan, his full name was Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Narayanaswamy. He was an Indian writer best known for his works of fiction set in the fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. He was born on 10th October 1906 in Madras, British India, and he passed away on 13th May 2001 in Chennai. R.K. Narayan was the third of 5 children in his family. His father, R.K. Narayanaswamy, was a school headmaster and his mother name was Jnanambal. The family moved to Mysore when Narayan was still a young boy. He completed his education at Maharaja's College in Mysore. He showed an early interest in writing and contributed to the college magazine. After completing his education, he briefly worked as a teacher and a journalist. His literary career took off with the publication of his first novel, Swami and Friends, in 1935. This marked the beginning of the Malgudi series, a collection of novels and short stories that depicted the life and culture of the fictional town of Malgudi. His next novel, The Bachelor of Arts, which was published 1937, this novel follows the life of Chandran, a young man pursuing his bachelor's degree as he navigates the challenges of love and societal expectations. The Dark Room, this novel was published in 1938. It explores the complexities of family relationships, focusing on the lives of the members of the Lally family. Next, The English Teacher, which was published in 1945. This novel tells the story of Krishna, an English teacher, and his emotional and spiritual journey after the death of his wife. Mr. Sampath, 1949, the novel revolves around the character of Mr. Sampath, who starts a newspaper and faces various challenges in his entrepreneurial venture. The Financial Expert, 1952, this novel centers around the character of Markaya, a financial expert, and explores themes of greed and materialism. Next novel, Waiting for the Mahatma, published 1955, set against the backdrop of the Indian independence movement. This novel follows the love story between a young man, Sri Ram, and Bharati, involved in the freedom struggle. The Man-Eater of Malgudi, 1961, this novel combines elements of satire and allegory, telling the story of Nadaraj, a printer, and his interactions with the taxidermist. The Vendor of Sweets, published 1967. The novel follows Jagan, a sweet mentor, and his relationship with his son. It explores generational differences and the clash between tradition and modernity. The Painter of Science, 1976. This novel tells the story of Raman, a sign painter, and Daisy, a family planning activist, and their lives intersect in the town of Malgudi. Next novel, A Tiger for Malgudi, published 1983. This novel combines elements of fantasy and allegory, narrating the story of a tiger in the town of Malgudi. These novels, along with his numerous short stories and essays, contribute to R.K. Narayan's rich literary legacy, capturing the essence of Indian life with humor and insight. His writing style. His writing is known for its simplicity, humor, and keen observations of Indian society. His stories often revolve around ordinary people and everyday situations, making his work accessible and relatable. Recognition. He received a widespread acclaim for his contributions to Indian literature. His novels were well received both in India and internationally. In 1964, he was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for his novel The Guide. In 1980, he was honored with the A.C. Benson Medal by the Royal Society of Literature. Adaptations. Some of Narayan's works were adapted in films. Guide, based on his novel of the same name, was particularly successful and brought his work to a wider audience. Later life. He continued to write and publish works throughout his life. In 1980, he was honored with the Padma Bhushan, one of India's highest civilian awards. Legacy. He is considered one of the leading figures in Indian literature in the 20th century. His works continue to be widely read and studied, and he is remembered for his ability to capture the essence of Indian life in his storytelling. His contribution to literature has left a lasting impact, and his works are still celebrated for their insight into the human condition and the charm of Malgudi, the fictional world he created. R.K. Narayan's contribution to short story. R.K. Narayan made significant contributions to this world of short fiction, and his short stories are celebrated for their simplicity, wit, and keen observations of human nature. Many of his short stories are set in the fictional town of Malgudi, creating a microcosm that reflects the broader Indian society. Here are some aspects of R.K. Narayan's contribution to the short story genre. Portrayal of everyday life. Narayan's short stories often depict the ordinary lives of people in small town India. Through his narratives, he captured the nuances of daily life, the humor in everyday situations, and the challenges faced by common individuals. Humor and irony. One of Narayan's trademarks is his use of humor and irony. He had a remarkable ability to find humor in the mundane and the absurd, creating stories that certain while also offering insights into human behavior. Characterization. Narayan excelled in creating memorable characters within the limited space of short stories. Each character, whether major or minor, it is vividly drawn and their interactions contribute to the richness of the narrative. Cultural insights. His short stories provide readers with the window into the cultural, social, and economic milieu of mid 20th century India. Narayan's works offer a snapshot of the cosmos, customs, traditions, and values prevalent in Indian society during his time. Exploration of themes. Narayan's short stories explore a variety of themes including love, family, dynamics, social expectations, and the glass between tradition and modernity. These themes are often subtly woven into the fabric of his narratives. Malgudi as a setting. The fictional town of Malgudi serves as a backdrop for many of Narayan's short stories, creating a consistent and recognizable setting. This allowed him to develop a cohesive world where characters from different stories would coexist. Narrative style. Narayan's narrative style in short stories is characterized by its simplicity and directness. He had a knack for storytelling that engaged readers from diverse backgrounds, making his works accessible to a wide audience. Social commentary. While primarily entertaining, Narayan's short stories often carry subtle social commentary. He touched upon societal issues and human behavior in a way that prompted readers to reflect on the world around them. Some of R.K. Narayan's well-known short story collections include through his short fiction, Malgudi Days, An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories, and Lali Road and Other Stories. Narayan left an indelible mark on the landscape of Indian literature, influencing subsequent generations of writers and readers alike. An Astrologer's Day text. Punctually at midday, he opened his bag and spread out his professional equipment, which consisted of a dozen cowrie cells, a square piece of cloth with the obscure mystic charts on it, and a bundle of Palmyra writing. His forehead was resplendent with sacred ash and vermilion, and his eyes sparkled with the sharp, abnormal gleam which was really an outcome of a continual searching look for customers, but which his simple glance took to be prophetic light and felt comforted. The power of his eyes was considerably enhanced by their position, placed as they were between the printed forehead and the dark whiskers, which streamed down his cheeks. Even half its eyes would sparkle in such a setting. To ground the effect, he wound a saffron colored turban around his head. This color scheme never failed. People were attracted to him as bees are attracted to cosmos or dahlia stalks. He sat under the boughs of a spreading tamarind tree which flanked a path running through the town hall park. It was a remarkable place in many ways. A surging crowd was always moving up and down this narrow road morning till night. A variety of trades and occupations was represented all along its way. Medicine sellers, sellers of stolen hardware and junk, magicians, and all above an actioner of cheap glove who created enough din all day to attract the whole town. Next to him, in vociferousness game a vendor of fried groundnut who gave his ware a fancy name each day, calling it Bombay ice cream one day and on the next Delhi almond and on the third Raja's delicacy and so on and so forth, and people flocked to him. A considerable portion of this crowd dallied before the astrologer too. The astrologer ransacked his business by the light of a flare which crackled and smoked up above the ground at keep nearby. Half the enchantment of the place was due to the fact that it did not have the benefit of municipal lighting. The place was lit up by old cycle lamps, and one or two, like the astrologer, managed without lights of their own. It was a bewildering crisscross of light rays and moving shadows. This suited the astrologer very well for the simple reason he had not the least intended to be an astrologer when he began life, and he knew no more of what was going to happen to himself next minute. He was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. Yet he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. That was more a matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork. All the same, it was as much as honest man's labor as any other, and he deserved the wages he carried home at the end of a day. He had left his village without previous thought or plan. If he had continued there, that is his own village, he would have carried on the work of his forefather, namely tilling the land, living, marrying, and ripening in his cornfield and ancestral home. But was not to be. He had to leave home without telling anyone, and he couldn't rest till he left it behind a couple of 100 miles, that is 200 miles. To a villager, it is a great deal, as if an ocean flowed between. He had a working analysis of mankind's troubles, marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties. Long practice had sharpened his perception. Within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong. He charged three pies per questions. He never opened his mouth till the other had spoken for at least 10 minutes, which provided him enough stuff for a dozen of answers and advices. When he told the person before him, gazing at his palm, in many ways you are not getting the fullest results for your efforts. 9 out of 10 were disposed to agree with him or questioned, is there any woman in your family, maybe even a distant relative, who is not well disposed towards you? Or he had an analysis of character. Most of your troubles are due to your nature. How can you be otherwise with Saturn where he is? You have an impetuous nature and a rough exterior. This endeared him to their hearts immediately, forever. For even the mildest of us loves to think that he has a forbidding exterior. The nuts vendor blew out his flame and rose to go home. This was a signal for the astrologer to bundle up too, since it left him in a darkness except for a little shaft of green light which stayed in from somewhere and torched the ground before him. He sensed a possible glide and said, "You look careworn. It will do you good to sit down for a while and chat with me." The other grumbled some reply vaguely. The astrologer pressed his invitation, whereupon the other thrust his palm under his nose, saying, "You call yourself an astrologer?" The astrologer felt challenged and said, tilting the other's palm towards the green shaft of light, "Yours is a nature." "Oh, stop." Our friend felt bigged. "I charge only 3 pies per questions, and what you get ought to be good enough for your money." At this, the other withdrew his arm, took out of an anna, and flung it out to him. "Pink, I have some questions to ask. If I prove you are bluffing, you must return that anna to me with interest. If you find my answers satisfactory, will you give me 5 rupees? No. Or will you give me 8 annas? All right, provided you give me twice as much if you are wrong," said the stranger. This pact was accepted. After a little further argument, the astrologer sent up a prayer to heaven as the other lit a cheroot. The astrologer caught a glimpse of his face by the babbling of the crowd agitated. The crowd agitated the semi-darkness of the park. The other sat down, chucking his cheroot, buffing out, sat there ruthlessly. The astrologer felt very comfortable. "Here, take your anna back. I am not used to such challenges. It is late for me today." Made preparation to bundle up. The other held his wrist and said, "You can't get out of it now. You engaged me in while I was passing." The astrologer quivered in his grip, and his voice shook and became it. "Leave me today. I will speak to you tomorrow." The other thrust his palm and said, "Challenge is challenge. Go on." The astrologer proceeded with his throat dying up. "There is a woman." "Stop," said the other. "I don't want all that. Shall I succeed in my present church or not? I will not let you go till you discharge all your coins." The astrologer muttered an incantation and replied, "All right, I will speak. But will you give me a ruby if what I say is convincing? Otherwise, I will not open my mouth, and you may do what you like." After a good deal of haggling, the other agreed. The astrologer said, "1 rupee equal to, that is 16 annas. You were left for dead. Am I right? Ah, tell me more. A knife was passed through you once, said the astrologer. Good fellow. He bared his chest to show the scar. What else? And then you were pushed into a well nearby in the field. You were left for dead. I should have been dead if some passerby had not chanced to peep into the well, exclaimed the other, overwhelmed by enthusiasm. When shall I get at him? He asked, clenching his fist. In the next world, answered the astrologer. He died 4 months ago in a far off town. You will ever see any more of him. The other groaned on hearing it. The astrologer proceeded. Guru Nayak, you know my name? The other said, taken back. As I know all other things, Guru Nayak, listen carefully to what I have to say. Your village is 2 days' journey due north of this town. Take the next train and be gone. I see once again great danger to your life if you go home. He took out a pinch of sacred ash and held it to him. Rub it on your forehead and go home. Never travel southward again, and you will live to be 100. Why should I leave home again? The other said reflectively. I was going away now and then to look for him and to choke out his life if I met him. He shook his head regretfully. He has escaped my hands. I hope at least he died as he deserved. Yes, said the astrologer. He was crushed under a lorry. The other looked gratified to hear it. The place was deserved by the time the astrologer picked up his articles and put them into his bag. The green shaft was also gone, leaving the place in darkness and silence. The stranger had gone off into the night after giving the astrologer a handful of coins. It was nearly midnight when the astrologer reached home. His wife was waiting for him at the door and demanded an explanation. He flung the coins at her and said, count them. One man gave all that. 12.5 annas, she said, counting. She was overjoyed. I can buy some jaggery and coconut tomorrow. The child has been asking for sweets for so many days now. I will prepare some nice stuff for her. The swine has cheated me. He promised me a ruby, said the astrologer. She looked up at him. You look worried. What's wrong? Nothing. After dinner, sitting on the pole, he told her, do you know a great load is gone from me today? I thought I had the blood of a man on my hands all these years. That was the reason why I ran away from home, settled down here, and married you. He is alive. She gasped. You tried to kill? Yes. In our village, when I was a chilly youngster, we drank, gambled, and quarreled badly one day. Why think of it now? Time to sleep, he said, yawning, and stretched himself on the bureau. The story ends here. Brief summary of the short story. An Astrologer's Day is a story from R.K. Narayan's book called Malgudi Dies. Published in 1943, Malgudi is a made-up city in India where all the stories in the book happen. The first story, An Astrologer's Day, is about an unnamed astrologer who gets questioned by a stranger about his abilities. The story follows a man who poses an astrologer. He sits under a tree on a busy street, offering to tell people's fortunes for money. Despite not knowing much about stars, he relies on clever guesses, cold reading, and letting clients talk to create the illusion that he knows things about them. One evening, as he is finishing work, the astrologer spots a man and invites him for a fortune reading. The stranger challenges the astrologer, offering him an anna but demanding it back with interest if the answer is unsatisfactory. They negotiate and the stranger agrees to pay 8 annas if the astrologer gives satisfactory answers. Despite the rocky star, the astrologer correctly identifies that the stranger, Kurunayak, was stabbed and left for dead in a well. He also tells Nayak that the man who tried to kill him died 4 months ago in a far-off town. The astrologer advises Nayak to return home and never leave again, promising a long life if he follows this advice. Nayak agrees, revealing he left his village to find the man who attacked him. Satisfied that the attacker is dead, Nayak is content. However, when the astrologer returns home to his wife, there is a surprising twist. He was the one who attacked Guru Nayak, using this skill to mislead Nayak and avoid revenge. By posing as an astrologer, he persuaded Nayak to go back home, saving himself from the man's vengeance. Thank you for watching this video.